Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Shovel Knight King of Cards. In the last part we finished off the last side quests in the game, and now it's time to go finish off Treasure Trove as a whole. If you've played any of the other campaigns, you roughly know what to expect with this final level. It's more or less just a very quick platforming segment, and then the final boss themselves. We still have to deal with the Room of Blocks that actively tries to home in on your generalized location, though King Knight actively gets a relatively easy one compared to some of the other characters here, if only because there's far fewer rotations of the blocks, and because your attack tackles things to begin with, you can actively take care of a couple rounds at once and not have to worry about getting hit at all here. There is still slightly a new mechanic in this stage, though, right before the final boss here. These purple versions of dirt blocks. These actively work a little bit like how Spectre Knight's jump works in his own campaign, where when you jump off of them, they automatically break. They also break when you tackle into them. You have to keep that in mind all the same. That said, right there, we just got merit medals numbers 133, 4, and 5. Out of a total of 135, so we now have every single one of them. With that said, in order to save those 3 into your actual inventory, you do need to go beat the final boss, so I did load into my save file after beating the game, just to showcase the reward for getting all 135 outside of just the achievement and stuff you get for getting all of them. 2T, every single merit medal collected. You become a bona fide legend just by telling me your stories. Head over to the bow. Using your 25 spare medals, I've arranged a little surprise in your honor. Long live the king! So, outside that last chunk of 900 gold as well as the achievement for getting every merit medal, you just get a statue King Knight here at the bow of the ship. I like the look of that, and it's ultimately framed by the wall we got for getting all the Justice cards too, so you get like a nice little showcase for getting 100% in that regard. Mostly bragging rights, yeah, considering the last 25 merit medals don't actively unlock anything super helpful for you. But the money goes a long way in the case you've been dying a lot more to actively get some of the other unlocks, should you need to. King Knight ultimately has what I'd say is the easiest final level of the set, though, because you don't even have to worry about the slight fear of falling into the bottomless pit as much with the blocks that would only move up when you got too close to them. Because you can see every block you can platform on here, it's honestly a lot more straightforward. Final checkpoint of the game right there. Let's go end this. King Knight, it's impressive you've come this far. I apologize. I've underestimated you.
There she is! Follow me! This way!
And you've brought your jesters as well. Oh, you know, you don't need them. You are the most important one here.
Preposterous! We stand together as kingdoms and people, as it should be!
Our roots run deep in the waters, and our friendship has hatched and blossomed through respect.
Now that I have my own voice, hear me clearly. I'm no king, but our flock flies in formation.
Under that bravery and conviction lies fear and uncertainty. Who among you is ready to meet their demise?
Strike true, King Knight. All of our hopes lie with you.
The Enchantress herself hasn't seen that many changes from the other campaigns. She still largely is projectile focused, either preferring to stay high up in the air or just below the platform on the screen. However, instead of generating dirt blocks you just stand on with her fire, she'll now generate that weird like space dust block, which you can only destroy by either jumping off of it or by charging into it. So in that regards, your platforms here can be a little more limited than in other campaigns, but at the same time, it's technically not that different from how the Spectre Knight fight went, given he broke dirt blocks by jumping off of them anyway. I'd say the biggest difference on the whole otherwise for King Knight himself is relative to how long the fight can take, as the other knights at least usually have a way through a sub-weapon of some form to actively damage her when she's below the field. King Knight doesn't in a way that would be relatively safe. Theoretically, I guess once this specific set of fire blocks goes up and the bottomless pits are there like that, you could throw a rat bombardier down there, but I would rather avoid the risk of it myself than falling down. Take your time with this fight. It can be a lot to deal with just in terms of the space you have, but it's far from the hardest fight. The Enchantress herself has been threatening in the past, but never truly a super difficult fight, if that makes sense. With that said, and I probably should have said this earlier, make sure you bring at least 1 or 2 decrees of rejuvenation into this fight, as having that extra healing can go a long way.
You're doing it, son! She's hanging on by a thread.
Our champion prevails! We're rooting for you, King Knight! These are the so-called leaders of the kingdom? A king acts, not huddles behind a champion. Shun these cowards, King Knight. Cast them off. You are the true king. Let's twist these false monarchs into something more useful, Long live the kings! The final boss of King of Cards, as well as Shovel Knight Treasure Trove's main campaigns on the whole, is the Grand Triumvirate. This is a fight I really did not like in my first playthrough. You can only damage him by shoulder bashing into the gems on either side of his head. Attack-wise, he primarily either shoots homing fireballs out of his eyes or slams down his hands in a couple of different patterns, even slamming them towards his head in the process at points, to try and destroy the ground. He can also drop fireballs that completely light the ground on fire. He can fire king birders, bouncing lasers that, honestly, thinking about it, work a lot like Gemini laser from Mega Man 3. He can use an attack right out of Triple King's guidebook and cause Trouples to try and just jump at you from the floor below. And he can even take a note out of King Pridemore's book and cause spike balls to fall from the ceiling, though if you're right next to his head when he's doing this, he's actually very vulnerable. I think you can use the Scepter when he's on the far side of the screen with his hand next to him to just dash through one gem to hit the other one and then hit him safely from the other side. But worth noting, he does take a bit of a stun phase every 3 or so hits to try and move on to a different attack. When he has about 1 or so full health pips left, he destroys the entire floor. And at this point, the only thing you can use as platforms are his hands. Worth noting, the bottomless pit below you is a bottomless pit, so be careful and make sure to land on his hands when you can. But of course, we're not done yet. That was only phase 1. Phase 2 is more of a platforming challenge than a standard boss fight. While he can still fire projectiles at you, he largely sits on the far side of the screen and arranges his hands in such a way you need to shoulder charge and twirl jump on over to the top of his head, doing a full pip of damage per hit. Every 2 to 3 hits he resets and moves his hands a different way though, but it's ultimately pretty easy to get around. Towards the last third or so of his health, he moves to the center of the screen and will start rotating his hands around him, but that leaves him super open if you're quick about capitalizing on him. You can really finish him off quickly.
We did it, King Knight! Her spell is broken, but help! I'm losing my grip!
Yes, King Knight, you have proven yourself. Come with me. Forget these weaklings. Join my Order of No Quarter, and rule Pridemore Keep as its one true king. It's all yours. Just abandon your friends.
Ha! He would never! My boy, don't listen to her. You wouldn't leave us to hang here, would you? Have you learned nothing about being a king? Please, what would your mother think? Silence!
Oh, splendid, my King Knight. Crown jewel of the Order of No Quarter. Spectre Knight did well to bring you to me. Now, Your Highness, what would you issue as your first proclamation?
Shred every Joustus card. The King of Cards competition is over. The only crown that matters is mine.
It shall be so. The armies of the Tower of Fate prepare to march at this very moment. Now come, your majesty. Finally, let us forge a new kingdom in fire.
Please, my boy, be reasonable now.
Oh, I'm through being reasonable. Now I'm your king. If you need some coin, you can sweep the floor.
Oh dear, what is it that we've created? And where shall I go?
Don't worry, you can stay in King Knight's old room. Seems like he has plenty of space in this big castle of his. But that's my room! Fine. Live in the filth of my former home. I have a castle and kingdom to tend to.
I suppose I've lost everything. But as long as I behold you, darling, I'm a rich man. Off we go, then.
Sorry, your pair of pets are busy guarding my parapets. I can't be running a public ferry, you see.
Fine, then. Well, take good care of everything I've created here. It looks like you finally got your kingdom, King Knight. I hope it was all worth it. Mom, wait! Mom! Well, finally the riffraff and my mom are gone. Time to get to work, my loyal subjects. We're about to make some big improvements around here.
Talk about a dour way to end the Key 4 campaigns, huh? Ugh. Even at the time, I remember that kind of putting me off, like, really, we're ending like that? Damn. And that's also the end of Shovel Knight Treasure Trove as a whole, sort of. There is Showdown, but unless something changes down the line, I can't really think of a very satisfying way to handle that as an LP, because at the end of the day, while yes, each of the knights has their own campaigns and movesets, it is largely a fighting game, and I feel like I would run out of things to talk about relatively fast after like 2 or 3 in that. King of Cards, though, on its own, I'm very torn on, because for every idea about it that I find really cool and really like going through, there's a stage or two or a placement of something I just find a little bit weirdly irritating, or I especially just find the extreme focus on Joustus confusing, I think is the way I want to phrase that. Because Joustus itself is a fine minigame, and I appreciate that they give you the cheats, so if you are having trouble with it, you can just win at it all the same. Heck, it's even in character for King Knight. But I just find how much of the game is Joustus kind of weird, because without Joustus, I genuinely think this campaign would be about the same length as the other ones. And I can't but wonder if maybe that's why it is there to begin with in the way it is, because they wanted to end the main set of Treasure Trove campaigns with something that was bigger inherently. And while yes, it made it a larger campaign, I can't say it makes it satisfyingly larger as much as I do like, say, the Giga Cardio fight. Now, if it hasn't somehow become clear yet across my, 4 years of playing this campaign set in some form, if you like retro-inspired platformers and you haven't played Treasure Trove yet, what are you doing genuinely? Because even while I'm split on King of Cards and Plague of Shadows is kind of a weird spot because of how much of it is just borrowed level design from Shovel of Hope with a new character, Shovel of Hope and Spectre Torment alone are worth the price of admission, and the fact you still get 2 other really good campaigns out of it is totally worth your time. I love Shovel Knight. Yacht Club games put so much love, time, and personality into these games, and I'm looking forward to Mina the Hollower for that exact reason. On that note, you're probably never going to see me play Pocket Dungeon or Shovel Knight Dig, if only because those are genres I tend to not play or enjoy myself, because I'm not big on puzzle stuff, so you're not going to see me do Pocket Dungeon for that as much as it has some cool stuff in it. And Shovel Knight Dig, while it has a narrative and is a platformer, it's a roguelike at the end of the day, and that is far from a genre that I tend to enjoy. Now, I'm very curious to see what they do that's completely new in Shovel of Hope DX when that releases, I think, later this year. Because if there's stuff in there that's new and really worth talking about, I might throw like an appendices video into the Treasure Trove overall playlist just to talk about that outright. And if I do that, I might throw Showdown into that as well at some point, maybe, but I'm not going to outwardly promise that. Now, if there is one thing I am kind of disappointed by with the extended Treasure Trove compilation, it's that we get all these teases of more characterization and lore that they probably had some amount planned out for the other campaigns, for the Dig the Boat campaign. And if there's anything I'm really sad about by that, is that we never really get to see more about Black Knight's interactions with characters, and we never especially got to learn much about Polar Knight, because I feel like Polar Knight, they had something very interesting planned for his connections to Shovel and Shield Knight. I know there's like a fan theory that Polar Knight is Shield Knight's father, I want to say, but I'm not sure if that would have been canon in any regard. Heck, I've barely done the research into that myself. Favorite fairy of research. When we actively went into, I'm going to say it's King Knight's nightmare, albeit it would have been a normal dream for the rest of us. Whatever fairy you select there is what grabs the favorite fairy slot. Doesn't do anything, but it's a neat little fun thing you can do there, and heck, I like the dream of that, if only because it's very different feeling compared to the rest of the game. I didn't even mention when we were there, the music there reminds me a lot of Kokorone on the NES, which I did an LP of, that was probably about 2 years ago now, I want to say, maybe 3? Worth noting, there is a cutscene after the credits, but I spliced something else in before that, if only because ending with the other thing I thought was funnier, because upon beating all 4 campaigns, we get this message. All games cleared. We, Yacht Club Games, extend to you our heartfelt congratulations. You've completed every Shovel Knight campaign, and that's no easy task. You're an amazing player. Thank you for sticking with it to the end. We appreciate your time and dedication. We'll see you on the next adventure. Until then, please continue to explore, play, and find every secret. When I first saw this, I actively got pretty melancholic, I'm not gonna lie, as to say Shovel Knight is a platforming icon at this point, let alone a effective sort of mascot for the indie scene, is an understatement. The fact that Shovel Knight was over is kind of a big deal. And notably, after this scene plays, this image of all 4 of the knights' heads actively gets added to the title screen, just as a final congratulations. But with that, barring the things I brought up earlier about potentially looking at Shovel of Hope DX and Showdown at some point, I'm gonna need to end Treasure Trove as a whole off here. Thank you guys for watching, have a great night, take care, and I'll see you guys next Let's Play, whatever that may be. See you guys then. You know, though, kind of a shame King Knight won like that at the end, though. Big dick move for him. Hope he gets his just desserts. Finally, after all my trials, everything is as it ought to be. No fish, chickens, or musicians to bother me. My boots are clean of triple spit, and I've rid my king of every blasted joust discard. Best of all, my castle is a gleaming shrine of golden opulence, a worthy monument to my grandeur. At long last, I can settle into my throne and bask in my own perfection. Now I'll be king forever!